So Ruth, here we are.
Here we are. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone who came, and especially to Barbara Yoder, my dear friend and colleague for 10 years now. We met at an Orojo Women Writers Retreat at Ghost Ranch in 2011. We were in fact roommates and did not know each other at that point. And have been writing together and working together ever since. And Barbara is a brilliant editor and was the editor for the primary editor for Quickwater Oracles. Really did an amazing job of helping me figure out kind of the order of things, and was so reassuring when I kept saying, is this too weird? Is this too out there? And so thank you. So I'm really happy that we get a chance to talk tonight, and I'll just turn it over to Barbara.
I'm so delighted to be here with you, Ruth, and with all of you who have joined us on the Zoom call. You know, it was really easy to work on your book. When I first read it, I had just completed a winter revision of a long project, and that took me deep into my adolescence, and we were into the pandemic and sheltering in place, and I was tired and feeling a little dark. But your book, Quickwater Oracles, lifted me into the light. These pieces really moved me deeply. And I told you this at the time, I could see Quickwater Oracles nestled on a shelf between Walt Whitman and Gertrude Stein. So many of the pieces celebrate nature and love, and some evoke the exuberance of Song of Myself. And Stein, because so many of the pieces meld inner and outer experience and focus deeply on the present. And you know, there's like a spiraling in this. I felt a spiraling as I was reading your book in a playful and sometimes almost hypnotic way, because the voices that you channel are often lighthearted, sometimes commanding, and they're always insightful. I laughed and I cried as I read your book. Now, you've published 4 collections of poetry, but you don't call the pieces in Quickwater Oracles poems. You call them conversations and meditations. And in your introduction, you say, readers are welcome to interpret these oracles from whatever perspective they choose, as translation or created artifact or pure fantasy. And I think that's such a sweet way to invite readers to enter the work however they want to. I felt invited right in by these pieces. They're funny, they're magical. You know, and I think this book, I told you at the time, and I still believe this can be used by everybody. In fact, when I first read it, I said, I want to send a copy to everyone. Filled out my holiday gift list, and lots of people will be getting a copy of your book. So
that's great.
It's good for everyone, but I think in particular, it's wonderful for writers and artists, because who hasn't experienced self-doubt and deep struggle to create and become? You know, and this is the journey that you trace through this book. I think that so many writers and readers will appreciate the insights they'll find pouring through these pieces. And so I thought that today we could talk about how writers could use your book. And I'll ask you to read some pieces, and then we'll invite everyone to ask their questions.
That's great.
Yeah, so you talk about channeling fields. Can you tell us what you mean by fields?
Yes, that's a good question. I think that we all know that energy and matter are interchangeable. I think if we actually kind of go inside and feel ourselves, we're aware that we expand much beyond what we think of as our boundaries, our skin. And in fact, we are fields of energy. And what I discovered in channeling is that these fields are actually enormous. I mean, they're vast fields. They're both non-physical and our physical selves right here and now. So I think both that everything is energy and that everything is conscious. That was the other kind of discovery in these channels, is that everything, literally everything, is conscious. And that was revelatory to me. So most of us is non-physical, multidimensional. Now the fields that mostly talk with me describe, I'm going to read actually from one of the channels because they described the situation in this channel. They are fields that are in affinity with me, and the channel is titled "Who's Speaking?" because that was what I asked. Who's speaking here? We are all fields, and you are merged with us when you channel. When you expand, you experience oneness flowing in and out of itself, much void, and therefore much oneness. It is only when someone compresses and becomes tight that nothing can get in. The more space, the more merged into oneness. And within oneness, there are all the unique and beautiful fields of consciousness. We are fields that are in affinity with your field. I, we, Alaya are not you in the way that your own wholeness speaking is you, but more like your almost twin in the non-physical. That's the closest we can come to it in human. And I, we, the mother field, are motherness, not a person of the stories. Mother Mary and Divine Mother are human constructs around motherness. In truth, we are a field, motherness. For all your life, you called to motherness. I won't read all of this, but I wanted to read one more section. Also in your fields of affinity, which you think of as your family of light, are the energies of your joy singingness singers, your bright, bright dragons, your joy playing dolphins, the energy of pure unconditional love of you, which Duffy brings concreteness of, and others. Aerial field is energy of love, all this that is. Love now here, this. This
indeed. Thank you for reading that, Ruth.
Oh, thank you.
You mentioned that you've channeled dolphins and the galactic dragons, and then there's also bees and rocks and mountain light. I mean, the voices, they all speak in this book and they're incredible. So I have a sense of a field being like a character in a story.
Uh-huh.
I guess because I write fiction. And when I was young, I would sit at my writing desk and say, okay, characters, I'm ready, come to me. I'm not sure that's the right way. Well, I'm very sure that's not the right way to channel, because I've seen you on writing retreats, connecting with the natural world and being present with the natural world. And I'm wondering if there's a way writers could use the pieces in Quickwater Oracles to get into a deep space where, say, you wouldn't have to beg the characters to appear, but they might just show up.
Yeah, I think that they answer. I think if you go deep and ask, say you are open to receive, and ask a question, ask somebody to start talking. Who knows what might happen, Barbara?
I'm going to try that again and again and again. So could you read us a few more pieces? Maybe you could start with the fairies. That's you opened the book, right?
That was the very first thing that happened. So when I say the first section of the book is called The Doors Flew Open, because I was expecting to channel with trees and birds and animals and kind of what I felt connected with when I wrote poems. But instead, it was like, boom, the doors flew open, and all kinds of beings that I actually don't believe in or did not believe in came dancing through. So the very first thing that happened were the fairies. Tiny voices all around, like birds twittering, all around from all directions, and giggling. I heard giggling. How can you doubt? This is beautiful. Here we all are. And touch, 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 tap, tap, tap on my shoulders and head and face, and laughter, all this bubbling laughter. And the voices saying, get it, tap, 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 get it. They were sprinkling fairy dust, sparkles, tap, 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 and then there's all this laughter. It was really funny. So that was the very first channel.
I love that that's your first channel, and that's how you started the book. You know, you said that you're here to sing. Do you think that's true of everyone?
I think we are here to be who we are as fully and intensely as possible, which is what I mean when I say that I think we're here for joy. I mean, what makes us feel happy, joyous, right with the world is being who we are, being authentic. And some of us are singers, both in the general sense of singers as creators, and in the specific sense used by the singers who channel with me, who sing into being and create the underlying song of the universe, which is kind of a different thing from those of us who are creators. But there are all kinds of people and all kinds of ways to be and ways to express and ways to be happy and enjoy, and they're all valid. And the thing that I kept hearing over and over is that what this vast oneness, this vast non-physical oneness, physical and non-physical oneness, delighted in was the kind of symphony of all the different ways of being, everything being what it is. And I think that's, one could say that's each of us singing our own note in the whole symphony, which is kind of different from saying that we are creators, we are singers in the kind of professional sense. So
that's so beautiful. So we had one question about when you talk about they, are you talking about the various fields that you
yes, yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, I channel with an enormous range of I could say intelligences, consciousnesses, beings, both physical, I mean, everything from rocks and landscapes and all kinds of animals and plants and trees and birds and so on, through all kinds of non-physical fields. So a couple of the ones that I read who were saying, this is how it works. We are non-physical fields, and how when you expand, then you can merge. We can all merge. And then when you tighten up, then you become separate. So that's what that was what they were saying. So when I say they, there are probably a group of, I don't know, there are probably 8 or so that I channel with a lot, but they're not the only ones. So yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. Could you read the second poem in the piece?
Yeah.
Which is in the collection, which is the mother. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Sure. So this was the second thing that happened when I started to learn to channel. This was the second channel. I'm the field you call the mother, divine mother, mother goddess, Mother Mary.
Mm.
I'm here to brighten your knowing of who you are, my beautiful, radiant, beloved child. Be at peace and know all is well. You can relax, let go, stop striving to fix everything. You don't have to be the mother. I am the mother. You are the child. You are meant to be the joy appreciator. Laugh, yawn, cry. Let go of that burden in your jaw, your neck and shoulders. Go back, go back, go back, go back to child. Let go. All is well. Everything is all right. Let go. You are here to appreciate. Your poems are praise songs. More praise songs. There are not enough praise songs in the world, Ruth. So that was very reassuring.
Oh, it's very reassuring. And I just love this focus on the mother and on being a child, because I feel like when writers and artists create, we're improvising and we're playing as children again, but we need that reminder.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get caught up in perfectionism and doing things the right way. And sometimes when I'm writing and things seem to be going well, but I'm not sure, I do feel a tapping on the back of my head. And I'm not sure if it's the fairies or the mother or just the wind saying you're on the right track.
Yeah. Yes. Well, sometimes it's a wake up. Look up, wake up. I think a lot of us tend to believe at some unconscious level that we have to fix everything, that we're responsible for everything, that if something has fallen on the floor, we're the ones that have to pick it up. And that was what over and over this field kept saying to me, I've got it. Would you just let go and do what you're supposed to do? So that was very, helpful.
Fantastic. Well, we have two more questions, and one of them segues right into this. Sandra wants to know if you could talk about the effect of being child, and she means, is this an unjudging acceptance?
Yes, very much. And not feeling that it's my responsibility to judge, fix, do anything for anybody else, as well as for myself. One of the meditations throughout, and one of the things that they talked about throughout is human beings have come up with this whole panoply of human beings know themselves in relation to things, be they what is right and wrong, what they have to achieve, whether they're measurements of various kinds or other people. And those are just human ideas. Those don't exist in actuality. In actuality, there is just an unconditional knowing of yourself kind of as a field in itself, which is really a valuable meditation, which I really try to do frequently, but it's working against years and years of habitual patterning, which is, how am I doing? Am I good? Am I being better? Am I being a good person? Am I being whatever? Am I succeeding? Am I all these kinds of measurements, all these ways of comparing and judging oneself. But it is possible just to kind of go inward and feel what the unique quality of one's own energy field as it kind of flows in, what that is. And each of us is completely unique. And that in itself is beautiful. So that's very much what probably it's true that a small child is what it is. It is not yet has not yet learned those ways of seeing itself that are so actually false. So
Thanks, Ruth. There's another question from Lisa. She says, I've heard the pieces in this book called poems, but you've said they are rather conversations and meditations. Could you clarify how you see the difference?
yes, yeah. Everyone does refer to them as poems, and that's fine. For me, there are a couple of differences. One of them is that my poems are coming, I believe, from me. And these are not. For these, I am a translator. So I receive energy and immediately word it. That's how I receive. I actually channel with a recorder and then transcribe it later. They are not, in my experience, that I'm not the source of these, but I'm the translator of them and transcriber of them. So that's a big difference. Ultimately, even if my poems are coming from kind of deep intuitive connection with the world or with others, they are coming from me. And the other thing is that these are more what I would call poem seeds. You know, they are kind of the initial I have not worked them at all. I haven't polished them. Some of them I've cut short because there were things that they were just talking about that were just personal to my life. But I haven't polished, revised, thought of other words, done anything like that. That is not the way I write poetry. I know that there are poets who do kind of first thought, best thought, and it's done, but not me. I work them for years. So that also is a very big difference between this and my other books of poetry. But I don't mind if people call them poems. I don't know what you call them. You know, I don't know. Channels.
I call them wonderful. Thanks for clarifying that. There's a poem in here I particularly love because it's set in Sea Ranch, where we often go on retreat. And so I wonder if you could read Sea Pines.
I would love to. Yeah. Yes, so this was at Sea Ranch. We express in scent, oil, needle, aromatic, and also a sound which you are not hearing now, storm sound. We sue and sue and sue, and that is of us. These architectures of space, which you metaphor as arches of a cathedral, this also expresses of us. And dancing. Our dancing is difficult for you to comprehend because you are too quick. Dancing is not imaginable for you, so slow. Imagine dancing when every gesture, every articulation of the dance is perhaps weeks, perhaps moons, always longer than your attention span, small human. We dance with the light, the wind, the air, the ocean sounding, which you can hear now, and the seasons, the heat, the cold, the insects. And so much of us is happening also invisibly under your feet. You know this is true, but you cannot experience it. When you slow down like this, then we have something to say and you have something to know, to word. And so this is a thing that happens, a moment. It is not a pleasure or a not pleasure. It is the thing that it is. It is interesting. It is interesting for you to pay attention. And it is interesting for us to feel you here.
Thank you, Ruth. I love that piece. And I love how you begin with the senses, and I can actually feel the trees speaking through you. And some people would call this embodied writing, being in the body rather than in the directorial head, feeling yourself grounded in the earth. And then there's this deep compassion that you have with the subject, which you call merging. And I can imagine writers being inspired by some of the pieces in your book to be really present with their material, whether it's an object or a piece of nature. So that's really cool. We have a number of questions coming in. I'm going to hold off on those until a little bit later, if that's okay with everyone. I want to just go on to this this idea of the body and the mind and the director and the receiver. And so there's another piece in here that I think speaks to that, which is empty head.
I'd be happy to read that.
Thank you.
You want to feel good, but often your ideas are in the way. It's coming from I should, I must. Exercising your body is coming from your head at your body. What if you allow your body to lead and unfold? Let your body do what it feels like doing. We mean literally ask and literally listen to what your body wants to do. And to the extent that that is possible, do it. Like right now, your body would like to get down on the floor and stretch your back. In everything, your work right now is to get your head out of the picture, to do nothing, to have nothing in your head, to be empty. The word empty. You are aware this word is good for you. Empty. Go inward instead of headward. Headward is headwinds, head noise coming in from the world around you. Let those things go quiet for a while. Let new pathways arise from silence.
Such a great piece. I feel like you channeled it just for me. I can start every day with, and that's really not my head speaking. It's like my microbiome saying, we got this. Because I know I've been caught up in my head for so much of my life, and it's been a long journey to come into my body.
Yes.
As I move through my days and as I write, and I literally have had to learn how to be in my body.
Yes.
I think that's a common issue that writers face when we criticize our work or expect it to be perfect, or expect ourselves to sit there at the desk all the time and just keep grinding it out.
Yeah.
So really good.
And I think that the power of what we write is lessened when it's coming from up here. So
Yep.
It's much, much stronger and more original if it's coming,
Well, after you remind yourself to listen to your body, then are there any other practices that you find helpful to be less self-critical and more present with yourself in your writing?
Yeah, actually, morning meditation and journaling are things that I've done for a long time. I also often talk out loud to myself, which is very interesting. After a while, I talk for a while, it begins to clarify what's actually going on, and eventually, it seems to me the kind of wiser inner voice begins to participate, and okay, now I'm seeing it from a different, deeper, let's say, perspective. I also find movement very helpful for me. Yoga, dancing, walking, swimming. But I have to say my yoga is not a program of asana, but really whatever my body feels it needs at a particular moment, whatever it feels like doing. My teacher is Angela Farmer, and she calls this inner body yoga. So you're listening inwardly and just moving as the spirit moves you. And that acknowledges that each body is different and each body knows what it needs, which is kind of exactly what that channel was about. So meditation, journaling, movement meditation, also breath work, pranayama. I do that several times a day. That's very helpful. And being outside whenever I can, which I find restorative. So, yeah.
Thanks, Ruth. There's a couple meditations in this book. Could you read the universal breathing meditation?
Yeah, sure. I do. I'm going to just read it. So if somebody does it, take it more slowly than as I read it, because I don't want to have you sitting here with it. But this is the universe breathing meditation. Expand, expand, expand. Open into the vast darkness, alive with lights. Here we are. Here we are again. Here you are again. Expand, expand, expand. Breathing, you come in and out. It is an analogy. You come in and out. You can perspective in and out also, into this body and out, into this body and out. And now expand out, out, out into the vastness of space, sparks, sparklings. And now the universe is breathing you, and you are breathing the universe. Breathe in, and the whole universe swirls through you. Breathe out, and you dissolve into the universe. In and out. Relax and breathe and open to receive. Just open to receive. A flood, a wave coming in, a pouring in of consciousness, a flow of light, of love.
Wow, I'm so ready to write now. That's just lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There are a couple of other pieces that I hope you would read, and then we have a couple more questions, and we can open this up to,
Okay.
And you don't have to do them all in the chat. We can other people can speak, but I hope that you would read Being a Poet.
Okay.
And then how to channel poems.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Being a poet. This was one of the earlier channels, and it was really reassuring. It was kind of like, okay, this is who you are. So, it was validated, I guess I would say. You merge with and channel the earth around you. This is your particular domain as a poet. It is who you are. It is what is unique about this, your chosen work. And this is enough to be giving the world. To speak poetry from this merged, expanded condition is rare. Do not be distracted. Be as pure and simple and focused and intense as you can be. You just be the poet. To be child and poet is enough. And then a little bit later, there was another. I had asked, is it possible to channel poems? Because these were not poems and I was not writing poems in the way that I had. How to channel poems. Sit with nature and attend. Everything channels, just like this. It could be clouds or a rock, such that you can compress and then later it explodes with meaning. Be as pure and simple and focused and intense as you can. For you have chosen well to be in love and happiness, to be turned only to the coming of poems and not tuned to thinking and caring about reputation, success. Just make the honey buzz, buzz, buzzing around in all the deliciousness in the sunshine, bringing home to make honey of poems.
Oh, honey. I just love that piece. And Sandra says in the chat about the previous piece, she says Blake. And Patty says, I'm inspired by the rhythm of Ruth's voice, how she seems to relive the invitations she's received and how she shares them with us.
Oh,
so, and then there are a couple of more questions in the chat, which I can read to you, and then we can just open this up
Sure.
to other people to speak if they want to. So Tanya wants to know if you've ever had channeling contact through nighttime dreams.
No. I've had significant dreams in my, over the years, but I haven't channeled at night, and I don't habitually do dream work. And I think that the reason, I was thinking about that once, I think the reason may be that I channel, I don't channel, I don't hear. I mean, I've had experiences, channeling experiences, where they were kind of saying, okay, there are all these different ways to channel here. You can hear this, you can see something, or, there was the tapping, you could feel it. But typically how I channel naturally is a knowing, a receiving of knowing, a knowing in words. And I think that it's actually energy I'm receiving, but the wording of it is so instantaneous that it feels as though I'm receiving those words, not hearing them from somebody else. I'm wording, anyway, it's a knowing in words. And I think that dreams tend to be visual or auditory, or they're more sensory. And in general, the channeling is not sensory in that sense. I don't know if this makes sense to anybody else, but the answer is I haven't channeled in dreams.
This kind of segues into Sandra's question, and maybe you've already answered it, but she wants to know she says, does language arrive around the voices visitors? Does language sometimes shape the conduits through which they arrive?
A very interesting question. I mean, the language is not, what can I say? They have very different personalities, I guess one would say, or quality, natures, just as I'm talking about each of us does. And flavors. So in a sense, they have I have, I guess, a different vocabulary for them, for each of them. And I tried to keep that in the channels. So some of them, I mean, like the dragons particularly, have their own energy, you know, and way of talking. But I'm not actually hearing that. I'm knowing it and wording it. So I guess one could say that it's a merged condition in which my vocabulary is being called upon to express different intelligences. I'm having trouble describing that, but I don't think those words are really coming from them. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, Ruth, it's such a gift to be here with you and to be with everyone. And I've just put my view on gallery view so that I can see everyone who's in the session. And if anybody wants to follow up on any of their questions, or I think that we could all unmute, or okay, just raise your hand. That's perfect. So Sandra has a question. Go ahead, Sandra.
Just listening to you talk and try to pass this very difficult area, Ruth, where let me just turn myself up, where you're talking about something that is not language oriented, but having to translate it somehow onto the page. Is that more or less correct?
Yes, except the translation is instantaneous and it's not really conscious. It's not like I'm getting something then working at trying to find the words for it. It's just
so to me, I mean, I'm trying to look at this in a way, of poet rather than channeler, or channeler rather than poet. So a poet writes looking down, whereas a channeler has to write looking up, so that you're paying less attention to the page than you are to.
Oh, I see. Actually, I don't. Yes, I mean, I have a recorder, and that's how I channel. I speak it, and then later I actually I put it on my desktop, and then there's a transcription service that I use, and then I have to correct all the transcription services errors because it's meant for business communications and not for spiritual or poetic communications. It doesn't know the words that I know. So, but that's kind of fun. But yeah, so I'm not actually writing, but I know people who channel writing or on the computer. Yeah. Again, it's not visual and it's not auditory. So I'm not really looking and I'm not really hearing, I'm knowing in words. I'm not doing a good job of describing this, but that's the best I can do right now.
I thought that was a great explanation. I mean, I'm not sure you could translate into words something that happens to you sort of physically, and and they speak a different language, and so you're translating, right?
Yes. Yes.
Does anyone else want to ask any questions, or raise your hand if you do? Sandra again. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just very intrigued with this.
I love
the process, and I'm wondering if sometimes language is an inhibitor rather than a facilitator, and wondering if there are other things that you could use, just like voice emanation or notes or something that might be truer in terms of maybe color, or I don't know, because it's so difficult to, language is used in so many different ways, and this very pedestrian
Right.
way, and this poetic way,
Yes,
and this
well,
elevated
that's
way,
very
and then a
true.
way that doesn't necessarily correlate to what you're going through.
Right, and that's very true. I mean, I often, as part of the channeling, have experiences which I can only describe as sound or color, and those are metaphors. It's very clear to me that those are metaphors for an experience of oneness, of the great paradox, which is experiencing oneness and at the same time the uniqueness of one within the oneness. And it is experienced as choral music, or as the colors of a dawn, where there's this merging of color into color into color. There seems to be infinite colors within the sky, and those are not literal. I mean, those are metaphors for and often in meditation, that kind of expanding, that in the universe breathing meditation called upon, in which it feels as though space, as I imagine it, with sparks of stars, is within me as well as around. So that is an experience of I think just vastness, of expanding enough so that everything's kind of flowing in and out, as they say, instead of when you clench, then nothing can get in. But if you expand enough, everything can flow into everything else. So anyway.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, when Sandra's question and your answer made me think of this, do you ever have trouble putting words to what you're experiencing?
Yes, only those kind of wordless experiences of merging, I think. Yeah, I think only those.
Okay, interesting.
Tanya?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I'm just thinking how delightful it must be to have this ability and this way of, transmitting, listening, translating. So does it make you want to go into new physical landscapes, like to travel and see what happens when you go?
What a good question.
To a
Yeah.
different place? I mean, we've been stuck during the pandemic.
We have been stuck for years. I often, I have a lot of very beautiful memories. So I actually see Shelley Aronoff here. And one of my beloved memories, I actually channeled, that was from on her deck from another house she lived in. Going there and kind of in meditation and beginning to channel that place. I would love to have other experience, but I'm so amazingly lucky. I live in this beautiful place, and so I think if I were living in a city, I would be really, really longing for that. But I'm lucky in that, and in that there are seasons. So now I'm going to have whiteness all around pretty soon for a while, and then spring, and then so it changes. So there's that too. But yeah, it would be great if I could magically and not have to fly again to get there. After the horrible flying experience I recently had.
Well, it just sounds like you could sit in front of the same square foot of earth in your lawn and have a lot of conversations.
There's a whole lot going on in our world that we don't. Yeah. Hi, Shelley. Shelley, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's so good to see you.
It's good to see you. My computer microphone broke, so I have to have this external microphone that I always forget to turn on. So it's very good to see everyone. I haven't met any of you, but I've known Ruth for decades now, Ruth.
It's been decades, yes. One of my oldest friends. Yeah.
She's definitely one of my angels for sure. But to get to your poetry, I do have a question. So I feel like there are a couple themes that have appeared in several of your meditations. And one is permission, the permission to let go of all of these kind of expectations and burdens and to just be this pure energy. And also validation that it's enough to be the energy, that you don't have to be anything more, that is your purpose. And my question is, do you think that when people channel in general, I know you only have your experiences, but I know you've also spoken to people who've channeled. Do you think that the messages, those messages that occur before you start to have that experience where you expand and become one, do you think that those are messages that each of us have to hear, that are kind of tailored to what we need in order to become one? Or is that something universal?
Oh, that's such a good question, Shelley. I do think that a lot of the things that I think a lot of the messages, they're speaking to human beings who are if you when you read the channels, like they're saying, human beings have really got a lot of things screwed up. and maybe all of us need to hear these messages. In other words, we are here to be happy, to be who we are, to experience, to whatever, but not to climb the ladder of success or be good or be righteous, or most of the things that we struggle to try to be. Those are human ideas, they're not in actuality. If we think of actuality as something that, is larger. So I think we all need to hear that, because I really don't know anyone, and that's me or anybody who's channeling or anything, that is free of those, the whip of being good, try to be better, you're not doing it right, all of that kind of thing. I think we all need that kind of validation that we are beautiful. We're just, they really, when everything I hear, it's like they say, it's just, we really enjoy all of you. You're it's we really enjoy all of these different, it's kind of like this amazing symphony and all these different sounds, and everybody's different, and it's just wonderful. We don't think that way. Am I being good enough? Do I deserve? And so that kind of validation, I think, is really good for all of us to hear. And also, when you're trying to kind of be in alignment with who you are, especially for me, I mean, this is kind of the last phase for me. So I really want to kind of try to spend it doing speaking from doing my work, being a poet, that's me. And And I think we all need that help too, to kind of be authentic. Because there's a lot pulling us off into matching other stuff rather than being authentic to who we are. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I guess one of my questions, and you answered it partially, but maybe, maybe there's not really an answer to the question of whether, I'm trying to figure out if there are certain, like if each of us has our own journey in terms of whatever is tethering us to something that is prohibiting us from having this experience. If there's something that's individualized within each of us that comes at the beginning of the channeling, because each of your poems kind of starts, not each of them, but the ones that have these common themes, it starts with this kind of permission and validation, and then it moves to this kind of more expansive experience of oneness. And I don't know, it's just a question I have is that something universal, or do we each have our own kind of burdens that are tethering us from having the experience? It's just a question, and I guess maybe it's not even a question that can be answered.
Well, we can. I do think everyone can channel. It's innate in all creatures. So we don't try to do it very much, but I think you should channel and let me know whether that's true for you too.
Yeah, I mean, I should. You're right.
Yeah.
Has anyone else here tried it? No.
I have not tried channeling, but I have had the experience of connecting deeply with a character through a physical experience of I was untangling my earbuds, and I suddenly felt myself in the character and the character in me, and she was untangling threads, and I recorded her voice saying, I jotted down what she said. I'm untangling threads. I just jotted down her experience. It was pretty remarkable, and it's pretty rare. But that's probably the closest I've come to actually channeling. It was just, and someone had suggested to me the night before. She said, did you ever do anything with that character who came to you in the desert? And I said, well, no, but come to think of it, she entered a scene and I'm not sure what to do with her. And she said, oh, because she really wanted to speak. And that was all I needed to, and that physical experience of untangling this and imagining her untangling the threads, that was all I needed to enter that character. That's the closest I've come. Nothing like what you've done, Ruth.
No, I do think, Barbara, I think your character, you have a couple of characters that you you channel those people. They speak, they just are very alive. They speak. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah.
I just spotlighted myself. I didn't mean to do that. I was trying to spotlight the two of us. We're coming up on an hour here. And so I think that this has been a very full and rich discussion and reading. I'm so grateful to you, Ruth, for your friendship and your mentorship and for this validation that you've given us and all the questions and all of you who are here today. It's just been, I'm ready to go back to my book.
Good. Okay. Thank you all for coming. This has just been wonderful. I really appreciate it. And so